no one?
Who are you?
No one.
Who are you?
I'm Buffy, the vampire slayer, and you are? Anyone who's not having fun here? Follow me.
Anyone who's ever watched my channel or knows me personally knows that Buffy the Vampire Slayer, probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite show of all time. And I say that with very little hesitation.
Gay!
But I will say this. As sad as I was to see it end a little over 20 years ago, I've been very happy with the resurgence, how much people have gotten into it, how much people have fallen in love with it, the rewatches, all of the different things that I've seen people get into in regards to the show and the whole universe in general. And going about my day and scrolling on social media on one of my days off while I'm working on some other projects, and what is brought to my attention. Yep, they're doing it. They're finally doing it. A Buffy reboot.
Fuck.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
So yeah, I'm not happy about this, and I don't think that Buffy needs a reboot. I don't think that if they do a reboot, I don't think they're going to handle it particularly well, and I'm going to give all my reasons why I think so. So, you know, let's get into it.
Riding on the wings of destruction, a toxic presence, a lord of corruption, polluting the ocean, spreading decay, the toxin black, gnawing the flame, searing through the sand.
I've got balls of steel.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
So, for the uninitiated, I will get into it. First of all, spoiler alert, if you are not 100% familiar with Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all the Slayer-verse and everything that entails, you might want to skip this video. But I mean, a little over 20 years and you haven't figured it out by now, I don't really know what to do for you. That being said, this is a spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. And I'm going to be using some clips and some videos and some trailers from Buffy the Vampire Slayer specifically, and maybe talking about some Whedonverse stuff in general. So this is my copyright disclaimer. I don't own any of this. It is for entertainment purposes only. Anyway, so yes, the report is out that Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot series with Sarah Michelle Gellar is returning and is in the works at Hulu. Chloe Zhao is set to direct. Chloe Zhao. And in case you don't know who Chloe Zhao is, that's Chloe Zhao. Yeah, remember Eternals? Remember how good that was? Remember that movie that everybody really, really liked? One of the best MCU things that ever MCU'd. Remember that? Yeah, no.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Yeah, so that's who's doing it. And you know who's not going to be involved in Buffy the Vampire Slayer? You know who's definitely not going to get a hand in this and do anything with it? I'll give you 3 guesses, but you probably only need one. And yes, that's Mr. Joss Whedon. And Joss Whedon is going to be taking a step back, not being involved, not even in a ghostwriter capacity. And I have no idea what they think they're going to do with this project without Joss Whedon. I'm not going to get into all the reasons why I don't think Joss Whedon deserved to be canceled, but he didn't. Nothing's ever been proven against him, and as far as I know, just in general, the only thing that I can confirm is that he's kind of a dick. Oh well. But his two main actors that have worked with him for years that still have careers, they've never said a bad thing against him. In fact, some of the wackos have said that Allison Hannigan and David Boreanaz's silence is deafening. Maybe their silence is actually based. That's probably more accurate opinion. But whatever you think or don't think, Joss Whedon is the creator. He's the writer. He is the hand of God that has everything and anything to do with why the show was successful, why the writing still slaps to this day. You know, stuff that people still enjoy is because of Joss. I mean, you're just not going to be able to get around that. You know, it's Joss Whedon is the reason why that project was so successful. You know, it has a banger Halloween episode. You know, it's developed games, books. You know, the video games slap. By the way, if you ever get a chance to get a hold of the video games, they're absolutely phenomenal. It did a reboot last year. They tried to do a reboot by having a person of diversity color is the main Slayer, and some of the other people are just side characters in it. It brought back some of the usual suspects. And guess what? It was also a big bomb. Total toilet water. Why? Because they didn't stick to the original theory of what Buffy is supposed to be. That's why. No other reason besides that. So anyway, that's me talking about this. I just can't find any compelling reason to reboot this series, especially rebooting it for modern audiences, and especially rebooting it for modern audiences without Joss Whedon and with a very terrible director who's done, does not know what to do with the source material. She was given a gift with the Eternals, and that turd was flushed down the toilet faster than something you see over at the stadium during free hot dog night. Like just disgusting. But anyway, I digress. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a 1997 replacement show based on a film of the same name, but a completely different genre, starring Christy Swanson. It's basically the young cheerleader girl that always gets killed in the horror movies instead has superpowers, and she decides to not only make it her mission, but accept her calling and go after vampires, demons, and the forces of darkness. Like I said, the 1992 campy film by Christy Swanson. It is what it is. It has a special place, I think, in everybody's hearts, but I don't have a high tolerance for camp, and it's not one of my favorite things. I would have never watched the show itself had I known what it was. It came on, and halfway through it, I thought I was watching, 90210. So, Joss got the idea for the show because he had always liked the girl in the horror movie that was getting attacked. It was like, what happens to that girl? Like, what if I could subvert expectations? He was a script doctor. He was a writer on different things like Toy Story and Roseanne. He did Alien Resurrection, things like that. He's, obviously he's brought in that kind of Whedon speak that we all now hear in almost every TV show, like The Rookie or 9/11, or if you watch, movies like anything in the Avengers or MCU ever, it's basically Joss doing that, for better or for worse. So he got the idea. They turned it into the movie. The movie wasn't very successful. He didn't like it. He wasn't happy with it. A few years later, flash forward 1996, and they're looking for a mid-season replacement for a TV show on the WB called Savannah. And they went with his option for, I think it's 7 or 8 episodes and a pilot for Welcome to the Hellmouth with the TV show. They batted around a few different actresses, had a couple different ideas of who they wanted to use. And they went ultimately with Sarah Michelle Gellar. And Sarah Michelle Gellar was originally supposed to play the secondary character Cordelia, and Charisma Carpenter, who was supposed to play, who did wind up playing Cordelia, was slated to be Buffy originally. So, and they even had Bianca Lawson, who wound up playing Kendra, the Vampire Slayer, the replacement one. She was actually slated to be a permanent character and possibly even Buffy for a little bit. But they didn't want to go with it due to the fact that at the time, believe it or not, WB was, kind of on some racist shit. Didn't want to have that person of color, shock and awe. 1996, different time, different era. But ultimately, Whedon did get Bianca Lawson onto the show as a secondary character. I wish she'd have been on a little longer. Thought she was a pretty good character. But, other than that, the show took off, did really well, immediately got greenlit for a second season. And in the second season, the show really kind of found its legs. One of the things that is good about the show is that the show knows what it is. It doesn't pretend to be anything other than what it is. It acts like exactly what the show is supposed to be. It's not too campy, but it knows enough to be campy when it needs to be. It's not 100% quippy, but it knows to be quippy when it needs to be. And, a lot of people ask me why I watched it, why I'm so obsessed with it. Ultimately, it's a tale of like a warrior's journey. I like the idea of this endless line of warriors taking on the forces of darkness. I think that's a pretty dope idea. And I don't know that it's been successfully done since then, except for the spinoff Angel, which is, more Joss Whedon property. This is one of those shows that, it can live in that moment in time. You can still rewatch it. I mean, there's stuff like beepers and clunky cell phones in there, but they're not, it doesn't take you out of the story. It doesn't make things seem too antiquated. I've heard people talk about certain problematic episodes and problematic themes that have been in the show, but that's all a bunch of bullshit. It's all a bunch of crap. The show, in my opinion, is really timeless. They got 7 seasons out of this thing, and I think it was incredible from start to finish. And it's back in the days when they didn't hide behind these 8-episode, 9-episode seasons and then do a 2 or 3 year layoff and then come back. Back then they cranked them out 22 episodes a season and then came back the following fall with a whole nother season. There's issues with the show, as there is with anything, and I don't dissuade people from the fact that they think what they think about the show. I mean, I've seen people put it in the same vein as Supernatural and Charmed, but it's so far beyond those things. All the themes in this show are just incredible. Everybody that acts on the show, they're cranked up to 11 and they're all bringing their A game. And listen, I'm just going to say it right now. The show is nothing without Joss Whedon. He really gave these people amazing stories and amazing dialogue to work with. And it wouldn't work without him being the showrunner, without him heading this thing. No pun intended there. But I guess the only evidence I can to give that, to back that up, is the fact that, with the exception of Boreanaz and Allison Hannigan, who else that's been on this show has done anything of value? How many failed pilot TV programs has Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was the showrunner on this, how many has she done? 5, 6, 7? Where's their movie career? Scooby-Doo aside, which she basically just played Buffy and Scooby-Doo. Where is that stuff? Because I haven't seen it. I don't know who they're going to bring in. There's been rumors that Sarah Michelle Gellar will be in there as an aged Slayer, now being a watcher to a new Slayer. That's what I had understood. How that's going to work itself into the story where they left it off in season 7 and season 5 of Angel, I have no idea. But I do know this, I'd be willing to bet you my car note that it's going to be some diverse person of color that is going to have some sort of tism or sexual inclination or something like that. I just guarantee it's gonna have to be something like that. And keep in mind that this is one of those, the original Buffy is one of those progressive shows, that brought in, the idea of it's okay to have same-sex relationships, because it is. But I mean, that those were not the main things of the characters' personalities. It was something that was an aside. It lent itself to the story and it lent itself to the plot, but it wasn't the main thing that was going on with the story. And, the original show has problems. Season 1, there's basically only 3 really watchable episodes. I mean, back in 1997, I'd never seen anything like it, but it is kind of cheesy, and a lot of the stuff is just, it's really cringeworthy type of things. There's maybe, out of the 7 or 8 episodes they have in season 1, only 3 or 4 are good, and the other ones are just barely watchable. So it really, really found its legs in season 2, lent itself to the horror and to the overarching stories, and then just started bringing in, spectacular characters, excellent storylines, and it was a lot more plot driven as opposed to season 1, where it was just monster of the week. And in season 2, they introduced us to a term we use in pop culture today, the big bad. And they had 2 different big bads in season 2. Spoiler, one wound up being Angel, Buffy's first true love, and then the other one,
What are you doing here? 5 words or less.
Out for a walk, bitch.
It's known as William the Bloody.
Because of his bloody awful poetry.
I'd rather have a railroad
nicknamed by
spike through my
torturing his
head than
victims
listen to
with
that
railroad
awful
spikes.
stuff.
Slayers. You killed 2 of them.
I did it.
You're gonna show me how.
William the Bloody. Spike. Spike was one of my favorite characters, still one of my favorite characters today. And you're going to tell me that this new rebooted version is going to have some kind of badass character like Spike in it? What are they going to bring in? James Marsters, who is like approaching 60 now, and they're going to bring him in and still be an immortal vampire? I mean, yeah, he was in the failed audiobook version of Slayers, but you're going to tell me that they're going to have a character like Spike, this psychopathic, misogynistic victim, or who claims all these victims, murderer that is he himself was a victim at one point of a vampire taking him over and turning him from a hapless poet into this Billy Idol walking badass version of a vampire that winds up killing 2 Slayers throughout the course of his career. No, I don't think so. That's not going to happen. And this is going to be another big failing of the TV show, of the reboot, because there's no way in today's day and age that they're going to have a character like Spike. It's just not possible for them to do it. It's one of those things where, this side character, this villain of the week, wound up being, an integral part of the show, and so much so that they even brought him back into the spinoff. Even after he was dead, they brought him back and put him in the spinoff, where he's freaking slapped over there as well. So there's no way that this is going to be something that they're going to go along with. I mean, I can't tell you how much it hurts me to know that there's going to be this substandard product, this product of the modern ages with a substandard director going to come out and basically degrade, everything that I love about this fantastic show. It's just, it hurts me for so many reasons. They even had a possible animated show for a little while that came out. I think this is something that would have been beneficial. The voice actors could have been the same people who had been on the show. No one's going to notice that they've aged in a cartoon. I believe they did have a couple of them, including the young girl that does most of the Buffy voiceover work for the video games was in the animated series, and this would have been a great thing for them to utilize. Could have been on any kind of streaming service. They could have made it dark, they could have made it light, they could have done a combination of the two, and it would have been incredible. this would have been how they should have rebooted it. But they're not going to do that. You know, it's too good of an idea, basically. Too good of an idea for its time, and it didn't ever take off. Why that happened, I don't have the information on that, but I know that it would have been a much better idea than, you know, what we wound up getting. And unfortunately, whatever it is that they're going to think that they're going to make into a TV show now, you know, it's not going to be something that's going to be it's not going to be worth anything. Anyway, the show really picked up in season 3.
Angel is
they brought in a bunch of new themes with the show. There was the aftermath of the conclusion of season 2 after Buffy killed Angel, or at least thought she did. And they brought in a bunch of new characters to include, but not limited to, Wesley Wyndham